In Nightmare Tenants Slum Landlords, we unearth stories of people whose homes spelt misery.
I know you're my landlord. Don't come back to my property.
From the renters at the mercy of slum landlords.
All the water's running down.
You're paying £90 a week to live here with no electrics, no heating.
To the landlords facing financial ruin from terrible tenants.
This is trashed.
He's a with this bloke.
In this episode,
Can I give you those?
we revisit some of the most extreme stories.
Do you know what? It's got cockroaches.
Seems like 17 people over 2 floors.
Provide habitable properties for other human beings. Jesus.
We find out what happened next.
We took the landlord to court. He got fined £9,000.
Good.
Yeah.
And the lessons learned by both landlords and tenants.
The money that's owed, we'll never see that again.
Get off.
As they went through hell
You are not stepping foot inside my house.
for their home.
Older died in there.
With an uncertain job market, millions of property owners have started renting out a second home to guarantee an income. Nicholas Parrington did just that. But things didn't go according to plan when he ended up with tenants who wouldn't pay and wouldn't leave.
They would have smashed the place up. This guy never ceases to amaze me.
Nicholas Parrington had been renting out his one-bedroom house in Hemel Hempstead since he moved out 9 years ago.
Decided to rent the property out when I moved in with my partner. Had a few problems, had some prostitutes in there for a short period of time. Then I let the house out to this couple that didn't speak very good English. The woman seemed quite nice. And they had a baby, which made me feel a little bit more comfortable.
But after just 1 month, the couple got behind with the rent.
Alarm bells rang when this chap rang me up to say that he had a few money problems. Haven't paid me a single penny since. We went down there and asked him to leave, and at that point he told me to effing sue him.
Suing them wasn't an option, but with £2,500 owing, Nicholas immediately started court proceedings to get them evicted. He headed to the house to check on its condition, but got another nasty surprise.
When I went up the stairs, there were about 3 guys lying in bed in the upstairs bedroom. Presumably they'd just come back for some sort of night shift. They all had towels over the windows to try and keep the light out. So, but every time I've ever been in there, there's been a different set of people in there.
It looked like the couple were subletting to up to 6 Romanians, and there was a reason his home had been targeted.
This is what attracts them. They're paying for a 1-bedroom property, but this is a proper office. There's no toilets in there, but there's a couple of people living in there. And there's a shed at the end of the garden. They wanted the keys, presumably they wanted to fill that with people as well.
Making matters worse, the tenants have been causing problems with the neighbours.
Police, I believe, have been on average twice a week attending disturbances at the property.
They were banging on the door at 11:45 last night.
Yeah. Why?
Wait,
What, your
yeah.
door?
Yeah, I'm sure
Why?
it was my... I don't know. So I woke up, went to the side door and looked, and their door was open. They just leave rubbish everywhere.
Yeah, I've been told that. I've been told that. They're an absolute nightmare.
They knocked on my door to get my internet code.
Did they?
Yeah, I was like, I'm not giving you my password for that. So...
They got so much cheek, it's unbelievable.
With the court case just days away, Nicholas was hoping his nightmare would soon be over. Any landlord can fall victim to a dishonest tenant. So if you do choose to rent your home out, what can you do to protect yourself?
A nightmare tenant will prey on vulnerable landlords. The key to all of this is referencing and doing your diligence. So you have to look at their finances, bank statements, employer's reference, previous landlord's reference, credit searches. You have to make sure that that individual can afford to pay the rent.
It's a business enterprise. You cannot enter into letting in the way that you used to. The days of the amateur landlord are gone. If you're not savvy and knowledgeable about housing law, you're going to end up in the bankruptcy court.
Do not fear sending the appropriate precursor eviction notice, because you don't have to follow through with it. So if the tenant has gone 2 months without paying any rent, but they've promised it in the next couple of weeks, serve the notice anyway, because at that point they will be 2 months in arrears. If they then pay, the notice just sits on the file, you do not have to go forward with it.
On Britain's streets, conflicts between private landlords and tenants are at an all-time high. With fewer affordable homes available to let, there's a new breed of rogue renters ready to exploit both tenants and landlords. In November of 2014, Leslie and Mark Irving suffered at the hands of a serial bad tenant who hadn't paid them any rent for 3 months. Little did they realise, this was just the beginning of their nightmare. Their problems first started when, after months of chasing her tenant for rent, Leslie started to get behind with her own mortgage. Needing help, she called an eviction pro, Paul Champlina.
Oh, yes. OK, all right. So, should we go and serve this?
Yes.
And wake her up? OK. So, Leslie, I'll knock on the door. Hopefully she'll answer. All right, you just leave them talking to me. Their light's on. This is it here.
This is it here.
Paul and Leslie turned up early in the hope of catching the tenant in.
I can try the bell, but I think we'll have
to serve an eviction notice on her.
What does she look like?
She's quite short, quite dark-skinned, black hair.
OK.
Is she looking out the window?
I just saw a shadow move.
Should give it another. Yeah. Shall I ring her?
You can ring her.
See if it does any good.
Yeah, they're in. I saw the curtain move. They've obviously seen us out the window.
Oh, hello, it's Leslie here. We're outside. Could you please come down, like, a little word with you? Do you mind? Well, we just need to talk to you. Could you just come down? We expect you down in a sec, yeah?
Minutes passed and there was no sign of her.
She's not going to come down.
No.
She's bottled it.
Yeah.
There's no way. We'll be here till next week and she won't come down, I promise you.
No.
Right, so what I'm going to do, all right, so what's going to happen is I'm going to serve the notice.
Yeah.
She's been served, all right?
She's panicking.
She's totally panicking. She got spooked, so she's not there. You can see the lights on up there. I saw some shadows. We've tried to call her.
We've spoken to her on the phone. She's definitely there.
Spoken to her. She won't come downstairs.
I am angry. I've obviously never had to evict a tenant before in all my life. It's been quite stressful, this situation.
Back in December of 2014, Nicholas Parrington had a battle on his hands. He was fighting to get his home back from a Romanian couple who not only owed him almost £3,000 in unpaid rent, but seemed to be subletting his property to up to 6 fellow migrants.
Someone mentioned to me the other night, why don't you sue them for the rest of the money? Well, I said to him, well, where would you like to try and sue some Romanians? At which point he said, yeah, point taken. I can understand that.
Nicholas went to court to try and get them evicted and didn't expect his tenants to turn up. But he got an unpleasant shock.
The tenant has just walked in with his girlfriend. I cannot believe the cheek of the man. He's actually turned up. He owes me £3,000 in rent, and he's actually turned up. So this is going to be quite interesting. I would like to actually go over and kick him, really, but unfortunately, I don't think it will go down too well. Very interesting, very interesting.
Nicholas and his solicitor presented their case in court. Over an hour later, his tenants were out first. To Nicholas and his solicitor Elliot's surprise, they appeared to know how to play the system.
First thing he said is that I can't speak English, I'd like an interpreter, meaning that the court would have to be adjourned for anything up to a couple of weeks so they could appoint a court interpreter, which was, I think, quite a nice little ploy, wasn't it?
Well, if a tenant genuinely doesn't speak English, then of course the court should, and it's right, that they adjourn to allow someone to be able to understand what it is they're in court for. But this particular individual understood. One of the very first things the judge asked him was who the lady was sitting next to him, and he understood the question.
And he just said, my wife. So he obviously can speak English, he can understand him.
Despite the tenant's apparent ploy, the judge decided in Nicholas's favour.
We got a possession order in 7 days, so we'll be able to put in a bailiff in a week tomorrow.
The tenants had 7 days to leave, or Nicholas would have to fork out for bailiffs to get his property back. Leslie Irving and her husband Mark had a nightmare tenant on their hands. Back in January of 2015, their tenant owed them over £5,000 in rent. Leslie had recently served her with a legal notice demanding she pay, and it seemed to do the trick.
Say that the rest of the funds, can I bank it in on Wednesday?
Are you going to bank all of it in one go?
Wednesday, yeah.
Wednesday, yeah. Are you sure this is going to happen on Wednesday? You can do it.
I'm trying, yeah.
I will look forward to that.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Are you expecting to see that money in your bank account?
No. I think Wednesday she'll phone with another excuse.
Yes, Leslie, I was going to call you this afternoon, yeah? Can I do it first thing tomorrow? So, please don't check today, you can check tomorrow.
With no sign of the promised rent, Leslie started to despair of ever seeing the money owed.
Hello?
But a phone call from the police out of the blue changed everything.
Oh, right. God. Oh, right. Yeah. So you're actually keeping her in a cell, or blimey. Well, at least she can't do this again. God. Right. Thanks a lot. Bye. Good heavens. They've actually locked her up. Can't believe it. Wonderful.
It turned out Leslie hadn't just been dealing with a difficult tenant, but a con artist who'd been promising to let rooms in Leslie's home to students, taking their money and then reneging on the deal.
She has scammed, probably, from what I understand, about a dozen people. Well, it is very frustrating to think that we've been really conned by this woman.
The tenant scam came as a huge shock, but because she'd been arrested, the Irvings were able to get a possession order and finally gained access to their home.
Ooh. Do you think there's 10 grand in here?
But going through the paperwork, they began to uncover the extent of the double life their tenant had been living.
You think that's another name she's been...
Yeah, I think that's another name she goes under, yeah. Another address.
She must have been in every flipping house in Hatfield. Oh, God, that's rubbish, isn't it?
Oh, in fact, this dates back to July 2011. Paid him £200 in 6 months.
I mean, she's mad.
Trophies of previous victims.
Just when it looked like the Irwins' nightmare was over, they got one final shock.
Oh.
So what end?
Got a house viewing, moving in this house.
Have you?
Yeah.
That's very interesting.
Well then, yes.
This unwitting student was yet another victim of their former tenant's scam.
We're the landlords.
Okay.
So the woman that you're speaking to...
You're very lucky.
is
Did you,
not
has she
the
paid you, have you paid any money out?
Yeah, I've given her the deposit. and
Oh, well,
everything.
you're stuffed on that then. You won't get that back. I'll tell you that now. Basically, she's been conning people.
I had to travel 2.5 hours to get
Oh,
here
nightmare.
because I start uni tomorrow.
Oh, my God.
You've got nowhere to go. Nightmare.
Completely gobsmacked, actually, that she's still doing it, even up to the day that she's been arrested and taken to prison. I mean, what is the woman on?
Four months after their traumatic ordeal, we catch up with the Irwings. Their former tenant has spent the entire time in custody awaiting trial. Today is her day in criminal court. She's charged with fraud against 14 students. The Irwings' unpaid rent won't be dealt with today as that's a civil case, but they're keen to learn the outcome.
I've come because I am interested and want some sort of closure on it, and I'm hoping that she's not going to be allowed out on bail, because I just feel that she may well go and do all these sort of things all over again.
I think she, she should probably get some sort of prison sentence, really.
Their ex-tenant could get up to 3 years.
The outcome was predictable but disappointing. She got 16 months sentence, suspended for 18 months, community service of 100 hours, and 12 months to pay back the compensation to the students. But that won't include the rent that she owes me. A little bit disappointing that she wasn't going to be put in prison for 18 months or something. But there you go. That's what happens, isn't it?
After spending 4 months in prison awaiting trial, their tenant is now free. And the Irwings have next to no chance of ever getting the thousands of pounds she owes them. Having had time to reflect on their nightmare experience, Mark and Leslie have come to a decision.
We decided to sell the house basically because we were a lot of rent down. But we bought a house in Derby to rent as what they call an HMO, 4 rooms. And so far, it's going all right.
Their former tenant faced no charges for non-payment of rent, even though the Irwings lost thousands. However, they have resolved to move on.
We're busy doing all sorts of things. We don't have time to sit around and mope, I suppose. I don't think we'll get it.
If we do, it'll be a great surprise. You can't assume that every person who comes along to you who's very nice and appears very warm and very genuine isn't, because most of them actually are.
One of life's little lessons one has to learn and move on. Well, you have to laugh, otherwise you'd cry, wouldn't you?
And I always tend to take the view of looking for silver lining.
Well, I'm not on the Valium.
For those renting in our crowded cities, the lack of affordable accommodation often means having to share cramped living conditions. Some unscrupulous landlords are cashing in by squeezing lots of tenants into ropey, run-down HMOs or houses of multiple occupation.
Got 6 in this room.
In March 2015, one such case was uncovered when an unlicensed HMO run by Samir Karim was raided. In South London, we followed the work of Ben Reeve Lewis and Lewisham Council's Rogue Landlord team.
Going to a property now that came our way by the Safer Neighbourhoods team. They just found loads of blokes living in loads of small rooms, so it's looking like it's an unlicensed house in multiple occupation. You ready for it? All right, we might as well go then.
The team were preparing to raid the HMO along with the police.
You can buckle that up on the 20. Just about to go in.
Reports suggested the property was illegally jam-packed with mostly Eastern European tenants.
Hello, police.
Chamberlain O'Casey from Environmental Services was tasked with checking the flat's condition.
How many people live here? So we've got another one there, another one there. Hello? How many of you in here?
Me and husband.
You and your husband?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Where are you from?
Romania.
Okay. Hello, police.
How many bedrooms you got there?
We've got 3 here. So we've got 3 guys in this one.
Every room live 3 people. It seems like 17 people. Over 2 floors, quite a few.
Seriously overcrowded. Can you show me your room?
Yes.
While we're here?
That's all right.
This property appeared to be illegally overcrowded with 17 tenants crammed into 6 bedrooms. Chamberlain was very concerned about health hazards.
All the electrics everywhere, there's everything in this place is wrong.
Hello? There you go, who lives in a house like this? Nice. It's not a des-res, is it?
Blocked fire escape as well.
Yeah, look, I mean, the windows, there's no fire escape. The windows have got bars on them. So if this kitchen catches fire, they can't get out. They're all burnt to death.
A death trap, I suppose.
Every place is a death trap.
Well, these are all a bit slippery, aren't they?
The garden also posed a risk to tenants' health.
That's all right, it's slippery stairs, aren't they?
This is a harborage for mice and rats and all that. The drain is all blocked up. You know, this is one of the worst I've seen.
How much are you paying?
$450.
$450 a month?
Yes.
For you and your brother?
Yeah, maybe.
All right, so
3 people here.
3 people, $450 a room.
Yeah.
Who's the landlord here? Who do you pay it to?
Danny. He has a shop down.
Who's the guy who's got the shop underneath?
Yeah.
6 rooms. He's getting $450 each per month. Yeah, nearly $3 grand a month.
According to the tenants, the landlord Danny, whose real name is Samir, was running the pound shop below.
You've got 17 people in there, we gather.
17?
17 in total.
In my book, I have 2 times.
But the people we've been talking to upstairs, they're saying they've been here 2 and 3 years. I find it a bit difficult to believe you didn't know that there was all these other people up there as well.
I know about that. They sublet some room because they couldn't afford the rent.
Okay, I got you.
But they didn't tell me how many people.
Right, so they told you they were going to let some rooms out?
Yeah, because
right.
they told me that. I didn't say anything because I wasn't around myself.
Yeah, sure.
And now I come back in the past about couple of weeks I'm around here and I see a lot of activity up there.
Yeah.
And I don't get a chance to go up and check.
Yeah.
Landlord Samir claimed he'd been away for a year, having an operation on his leg.
He said that, as far as he was aware, there was only 2 flats up there. Then he went away and he came back last week, and there were 17 people in it, much to my surprise.
Then, you know, okay.
Chamberlain believed the building was unfit for human habitation.
I'll give you a call sometime. Nobody should be living there. Everything is wrong with the property. The wiring, everything, you know.
Okay, I didn't know that.
The kitchen is a mess.
No, in matter of fact, I put brand new kitchen, brand new bathroom.
Where?
About
1970.
About a year ago.
Because prohibiting the building from use would make the tenants homeless, Chamberlain made Samir an offer. Have less tenants and improve the standard and safety, and they won't prosecute.
I'm going to tell you exactly what is wrong.
Okay.
You need to be prepared to spend some money here.
Yes, I have to.
You got the lease, yeah.
Chamberlain wasn't convinced the landlord would really carry out the work, so planned to return to check he was as good as his word. Nicholas Parrington had won a possession order to recover his property from tenants who stopped paying the rent. And finally, the day they were due to be evicted had arrived.
A little bit apprehensive about today.
Been told that he's still in the property. Just have to hope that they haven't smashed the place up.
Still got a bed in there.
Nobody in, nothing.
The good news was the tenants appeared to have left.
I can't get in.
The locks have been changed. God almighty, nightmare, isn't it? No.
Nicholas was desperate to check on the state of his house.
There's beds, there's aftershave. So far, it looks all right.
The bailiff turned up, but it appeared the tenants had already left. But they'd locked Nicholas out as a parting gesture.
Hello?
But a phone call from the police suggested there may have been more serious reasons for their sharp exit.
Oh, right. Is he in custody or...? Right. OK. Thank you, bye-bye. Well, it appears our tenant has been arrested. Don't know what for. Obviously, the police won't tell me. Don't think so. He's a generally unsavoury sort of bloke, really, isn't he?
Who's that called you? Was it the police?
That was the police. They're on their way. They'll be here in 10 minutes.
Oh, right, OK.
So they obviously want to have a quick look inside, see if there's any evidence or anything like that.
Not only was Nicholas locked out of his house, it was now potentially a crime scene.
Oh, here he is, Mr. Locksmith.
The locksmith arrived, but there was more bad news for Nicholas.
Try this one. There might be some time, mate, because it's a British standard cylinder on and they're made.
Not to get in?
Not to get in, exactly, yeah. OK, I'll crack on and get it sorted.
Wouldn't be a cheap lock, would it?
Don't want you getting back in your house, does he?
He's a bastard, this bloke. Yeah, everything all right. Just waiting to get in the bloody place to see if there's any damage been done, that's all.
The police were keen to search the house.
I've sort of informed them. I mean, they've been run ragged, the poor buggers, you know.
But they needed to get in first.
Can't we dynamite it?
The commotion was causing a stir with the neighbours.
They've changed the locks and they put very, very good ones on them. Obviously, didn't want people to come in. They might have to break the glass, but we're going to have to ring.
We're in.
Ah, we're in. Hooray!
Police! That wasn't easy, was it?
Certainly wasn't.
It took nearly half an hour for the locksmith to break in, and by that time there was a queue of people keen to inspect the property. But it only took seconds to get into the outbuilding.
Brilliant. Not too bad, really. They haven't smashed it up.
The police gathered their evidence, leaving Nicholas free to finally check his property.
Dirty bastards. Right, toilet's broken.
And there was one final surprise for the landlord.
It was wired like that, tight together. So it's not as if like it is inside the cable. It was left effectively as a trap, so that as you pulled that thing down like I did, the two wires shorted together because they'd been stripped, and it was always going to go bang, which is not very nice, really. That's like a booby trap almost.
After 5 months of stress and worry, a booby-trapped house that turned out to be a crime scene, endless complaints from his long-suffering neighbours, and having lost over £3 grand's worth of rent, Nicholas Parrington's nightmare was finally over.
Good result today. I'm quite happy. No major damage done.
Hey.
It's nice being a landlord when you've got a good tenant. It's a nightmare being a landlord if you've got a bad one. Hopefully, at last, we can put it all behind us.
Nicholas Parrington's case was extreme, but it hasn't put him off being an amateur landlord. 7 months later, he's got new tenants in, though this time he's keeping a close eye on his house.
It was an episode of my life that I don't particularly wouldn't like to go back, live through again. It took me 6 months to get them out, and they live there rent-free. It's basically a parasite living living on your back, and cost me nearly £3,500 at the end of the day, which I would never ever see back again. This is the property. Obviously, we've got the new tenants in there. They're keeping it nice and clean. I'm going to come through and have a quick look. Nice to have no fag ends on the floor. Then we go through to the garden. All kept nice and clean. Nice to have good tenants. Keep to the coastal path. Good advice. The difference is I've known the new tenant's father for many years. He's a good friend of mine, and she's a smashing girl. So I actually know the family. So which is great. Which helps a great deal. If anyone could ever try and do that, that would be the first ideal. That's the ideal way to do it. These Romanians were the only tenants I've ever really had that have ever given me major problems.
Do you know what happened next with them guys?
No, disappeared off the face of the earth. No idea. Don't know.
What would you love to say to them if you saw them?
I can't really say that really on film, you know. Not prepared to go into that. It wouldn't be pleasant. It's the only answer really, isn't it?
Back in March of 2015, just a week after raiding a slum house of multiple occupancy, Chamberlain from Environmental Services in Lewisham paid the landlord a visit.
We're gonna tell you what you have to do, what you don't have to do.
Chamberlain had a decision to make. Had Samir made enough improvements to the property to be allowed to continue to rent it out, or did Chamberlain need to serve a prohibition notice? The fire service had also come along to check the building's fire safety.
Basically, we're gonna tell you what to do anyway. We've seen some improvement, but I mean, there's still a lot of work to do. So you're painting the place, is that it?
Yes.
But making the property safe involved more than a lick of paint.
The sash cord look broken.
There were windows that didn't work.
If you push this up now and leave it, bam. This is not a fire door at all.
Overloaded electrical systems.
I don't encourage all this.
Damp and structural problems.
See, there's a hole there. Got a broken glass here.
And a fire hazard, a cooker in the hall.
So is this going back to the kitchen?
We're gonna get a new one.
Okay. There are a few things you can do yourself, but there are things that we need to advise you what to do. You need to have a handrail here.
But we don't have old people.
No.
I need to put a plug in here.
Right.
That's it.
You need to get a qualified electrician. Don't do it yourself.
I will save a lot of money.
I don't want you going. And the shower I have to do as well.
It was a daunting list of expensive improvements.
We're gonna change these tiles or what?
Oh, no, I don't change that. No chance.
But Samir appeared to be taking it in his stride.
I already bought that.
Okay, you already bought that. I'm beginning to like you.
You
know what I'm saying? I'm beginning to like you. I don't know what you want to do about the back of your property, the garden.
The garden, I haven't finished the work I have.
You know you're gonna need a skipping or something
And
like
that,
that.
no, these are all my things I need. Nothing rubbish.
You have a sense of humor, you know?
You have to, you have to. You live in the world with people.
Yeah.
There was a mountain to climb, but the fact Samir had made a start gave Chamberlain some cause for optimism.
Maybe he's such an honest guy. Maybe he just let problems get on top of him, you know. But the way I look at it, he was still coming up here collecting the money. Do you see what I'm saying? So
It is a big wake up, and it's some things I can learn from.
Landlords like Samir need to realise it's their legal responsibility to make sure their property is habitable and safe. However, 3 out of 10 houses fail to meet the government's decent home standard. Landlords must follow very strict health and safety laws.
Landlords have got to be very careful before they rent properties out. The law is always changing, it's a shifting sand. You've got to make sure that the electrics are fully compliant, that there are interlinked carbon monoxide and fire detectors and smoke detectors within the property. Landlords are asking for trouble if they don't do these simple, straightforward things.
It's the landlord's responsibility under a thing called Section 11 of the Landlord and Tenant Act to repair the walls, the roof, anything to do with the structure of the building. So if you're a landlord and the boiler breaks up, it's your responsibility. You've got to fix it whether you've got the money or not.
Your ongoing obligation is very strict, and it continues notwithstanding the fact that you may have an unruly tenant or even a tenant that's not paying the rent. Do not assume that your obligations to repair the property also fall away. They don't.
In South London, Environmental Health Officer Chamberlain had arranged to meet landlord Samir.
How are you, my friend?
Hello, sir. How are you?
How are you? You okay? You all right?
When Samir's HMO was raided 6 weeks earlier, the team found a string of health and safety breaches, and they threatened to prohibit him from renting it out. But Samir won a stay of execution when he promised major renovations.
Yeah, shall we go up and just see what miracle if you've done? I know you've done a lot of miracle.
Chamberlain was returning to check whether Samir was true to his word.
Handrail, everything is intact, solid. This is the shower. I remember that was basically black in color, but it's a new one now. New toilet. The windows are opening. Yeah. The sanctuary is there now. I'm happy with this one.
In just over a month, Samir had replaced the bathrooms and the kitchens and claimed he'd spent £20,000 on doing up the property.
It looks like a kitchen where people can eat.
He'd also put right the fire and electrical hazards.
I'm actually quite happy for the job you've done so far. Can't argue with that. You know, you've already taken a lot on board.
And it was no longer illegally overcrowded. The property was now 2 3-bedroom flats, 1 on each floor, housing 2 families.
And I suppose the people living here are happy now, aren't they?
Oh, yeah, they are.
Yeah,
they
they're happy.
Be.
Yeah.
They should be.
Yeah, they're happy now.
If Samir gets his property up to scratch, running a house of multiple occupancy can be a perfectly legitimate business practice. But landlords have to take great care not to fall foul of the law.
An HMO is 3 floors, at least 5 tenants living in a property with shared amenities, i.e. toilets, bathroom, kitchens.
If you fail as a landlord to register that property as an HMO, you are committing a criminal offence and could be subject to criminal prosecution if you breach those laws.
You've got to have a fire door with a trim around it that will exclude smoke. You've got to have fire escapes. And there are too many rogue landlords out there. It's shocking that in the 21st century it's like this, but it is.
Seven months have passed since Chamberlain last visited Samir's flats above the pound shop. He's heading there today to carry out a spot check on the property.
I think surprising is the best way to deal with this. When you come unannounced, they got nowhere to hide. Some of these bad landlords, the moment you turn your back, they decide to not to do anything. You need to keep at them If they know that we revisit them every 3 months or 6 months, then basically the news will also go around to some other landlords, and they know that we're gonna be on their back. Morning, Samir. I'm checking to see whether it's overcrowded it again, or whether it's normal. And also he promised to put some sort of fire alarm. Okay. So this is what I'm talking about.
Council doesn't ask me for it, but I done it myself.
Yeah.
Which is, I
Very
don't know what they
good.
call them.
Even the fire brigade never recommended this anywhere, so I'm glad to see it here anyway.
The first signs are good. Samir has installed an interlinked fire alarm system.
See, it's working. This is what we're looking for, and this is what we want, really. Standard hasn't gone down yet.
Make sure it doesn't go down.
Well, that's why we're here. That's why we're keeping an eye. I've met a lot of landlords that once you turn your back, they're back to their old self, you know. But in this case, it's quite different. So far, so good. We need to hang this somewhere. If you leave it lying around, people tend to move it.
In case anything happens, there should be something's there for them. Normally, council doesn't ask me to do that.
But once it's stationed somewhere, fixed somewhere, then it's there for everybody to use here, just if necessary. There's something else that, let me see if it's in the kitchen. We need a fire blanket here.
Yeah.
That's what we need.
But I don't have any fire blanket at the moment. Yeah.
I'm sure you can get one very soon.
Because they don't ask me for it. I do all these things for myself.
Well,
see,
do it for
I
yourself.
do fire extinguishers. Nobody asked me to do it. I done the fire interlink. Nobody asked me to do it, and done it myself. I'll bring that fire blanket as well. Next time you come, I'll give you that.
I'm asking it now. So.
I tried my best for you, and you still you should give me 10 out of 10. I'll be happy for that. I'm getting there. I'm getting there.
Not all of them engages, but he is engaging. So let's hope that he will keep that up.